It was around 10 p.m. on a Saturday night when Gavin pulled into my driveway. His headlights cut through the blinds, casting shades of moving light across the wall. I was reading the news, something about a carjacking and a chase that ended in fatalities. It happened in my neck of the woods, too. Outside, I heard the car door shut. Gavin opened the front door into my living room. He was holding a paper grocery bag in his left hand and a PS4 controller in his right. "Hey dude, sorry I'm late," he said, taking off his jacket and beanie. I moved aside so he could sit on the couch next to me. "What do you mean late? It's like 10 o'clock, man," I smirked. "Hey, did you hear about the carjacking on Powell? That's like 5 minutes from here." Gavin smiled, sitting down. He set the paper bag and DualShock 4 controller on the coffee table. "Nope. I did hear sirens on the way here, though," he remarked. "Anybody die?" He reached into the paper bag and pulled out a fifth of vodka, then a fifth of bourbon. He fished around the bottom of the bag, loudly crinkling the paper. "Actually, yeah," I said, dryly, grabbing the bottle of bourbon to examine the label. "Apparently, dude plowed over some lady with her kid crossing the road. Messed up, man." Gavin pulled 2 jars from the bag and set them down on the table. He picked up the paper bag and tried folding it neatly for a few seconds, before he gave up and squished it flat with both hands. "Ta-da," he said proudly. Gavin and I have been friends for about 15 years. We met in middle school and have been friends since. At 6'4", handsome and well-dressed, he always seemed to be the center of attention. "Pick your poison," he said, grabbing the bottles in either hand. He looked at the vodka and mocked a Russian accent. "In my homeland, we would drink these instead of water. Better make it bourbon," I said. "Vodka and I aren't on speaking terms right now." Gavin nodded tersely and cracked the seal on the bottle of bourbon. I walked over to the thermostat and turned the heat up a little. Gavin lined up the jars on the table. "I have tumblers, you know," I said, grabbing a gray hoodie from a hook on the wall. I zipped up the hoodie. "Dude, it is cold tonight, yeah?" "Don't be such a pussy," Gavin laughed. He poured amber-colored bourbon into the 2 glasses. "Wait, do you have any mixers?" "Oh, shit. I forgot to grab soda. That's my bad." I frowned. "That's okay. Honestly, I like straight bourbon anyway." Gavin frowned as well, but then shrugged. "Shall we?" he said, handing me one of the jars. After an hour of drinking, we were both pretty inebriated. I know my limits and I was taking my time with the booze. I didn't want to get completely hammered. Gavin never goes halfway, if you know what I mean. By 11:30, he was sufficiently shit-faced. The weird thing is, you would probably never know. I've known Gav for long enough to tell when he's 2 sheets to the wind. He's pretty good at keeping his composure. She's riding piggyback, and at this point she's starting to get heavy, so I tried to adjust her position on my back, Gavin said, laughing. But she adjusts herself at the same time. Needless to say, she went flying over my shoulders into the crowd, face-planting on the ground. I laughed hard, holding my sides. "Gav, seriously, that's fucking hilarious," I managed to say. "Was she okay?" "Who knows? The mosh pit started up again and we got separated," Gavin sighed, finishing off his drink. "I mean, we only knew each other for half an hour anyway. I can't believe we fucked in a porta potty. Gross." "Hey man, need another drink?" I said, changing subjects quickly. I noticed the bourbon bottle was empty. "Oops. Guess we better dive into that vodka. What do you say?" Before Gavin could answer, the power shut off. It was suddenly dark and dead quiet in the house. "Seriously?" I said aloud. I stood in the center of the living room. I craned to look out the window into my backyard. It was so dark outside I couldn't see the trees behind my house. "What did you do, Gav?" I joked. But Gavin didn't reply. I waited a few seconds for him to respond, but it was silent in the house. "Hey, Gavin." I looked back at the couch and squinted into the dark room to discern shapes. I couldn't even tell if he was still sitting there. "Dude, what the hell?" I said, slightly irritated. I fished my phone out of my pocket and flipped on the flashlight. I pointed it at the couch, and Gavin was gone. For a second, I lingered, looking at the couch and wondering where he had gone. Then, 2 hands slammed down on my shoulders from behind, gripping tightly. For a moment, I thought my skeleton might jump out of my mouth. Before my brain could even catch up, I heard Gavin laughing hysterically. I turned around and aimed the LED directly into his eyes. "You're a douche, Gav, I swear to God." And this just made him laugh harder. I couldn't help but start laughing myself. Fucking dick. After we stopped laughing, Gavin walked over to the front door and opened it up. A gust of icy air oozed into the room. He took a step onto the front porch, looking out at the pitch-black neighborhood. "Wow, it's really dark," he remarked. "You're a genius," I replied sarcastically. "Now can you close the door? It's fucking freezing." "You should look at it out here, man," Gavin said. It's surreal seeing it so dark. Like, I can't even see my hands." I walked out to the porch and stood alongside Gavin. He was right. It was very dark. Something about it felt different than a normal blackout, however. It was quiet outside, despite it normally being a busy street. I remember when Gavin had mentioned sirens earlier, but there was no such sound. There really wasn't any sound, aside from the gentle breeze passing through. It was like we were indoors. I looked up and down the street and couldn't see any signs of life anywhere. "Hey," Gavin suddenly spoke. "Let's go explore." A chill made its way up my spine. "Really?" I asked, trying to sound like I wasn't nervous. "What about the vodka?" "What about it?" Gavin replied with a smile. "I thought you weren't on speaking terms." After a few seconds of silence, Gavin turned to me and crossed his arms. He shot me a look, with one eyebrow raised. I knew that look. That's the "we're doing this whether you want to or not" look. "Fine," I said, sighing. Gavin has this way of convincing people to do what he wants. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued a little to go out and explore, but something felt wrong. I stepped inside and grabbed a 3-cell mag light in my coat. I headed back to the porch. Gavin was already on the street in front of my house, shining the light from his cell phone around. I snapped the mag light on and shined it straight up in the air like a lightsaber. It cast a beam into the overcast sky, hitting the clouds like a spotlight. "That's kinda cool," Gavin remarked. I locked my front door and stepped out into the night. It was dark and frigid, and I could see my breath illuminated like smoke in the flashlight. As I approached Gavin, I pointed the light at his face. He covered his eyes with one hand, flipping me off. We decided to head towards a large park near my house. It was only 3 blocks away. Walking through the street towards the park, an uneasy feeling settled over us. Shouldn't there be, other people around?" Gavin asked. "I haven't heard so much as a dog barking since we left the house." There weren't cars or bikes on the road. No candles or flashlights in any window either. Nobody on the street. not a soul in sight. The world was still and silent. I could see the park entrance coming up, lit by the beam of my flashlight. It was a passage cut through the dense trees that surrounded the edge of the park. As we approached the entrance, we both heard it at the same time. From somewhere deep in the park, a distressed wailing droned through the icy air. It was a girl, maybe a child, crying somewhere deep in the darkness of the park. Gavin and I stopped at the same time and looked each other in the eyes. "You fucking hear that, right?" I asked him through chattering teeth. "Yeah, I hear it," Gavin said, looking at the yawning entrance to the park, an impenetrable darkness. "It sounds like a kid. We have to help if something's wrong." His voice tipped up in a way that made it sound like he was asking me a question, unsure of himself. We both walked through the entrance and onto the gravel pathway. I pointed my mag light around, looking for the source of the crying. Gavin was using the light on his cell phone, but it didn't provide a lot of visibility. The LED only penetrated 3 or 4 feet ahead of us. We stayed on the path, moving slowly and avoiding the deeper reaches of the open fields on either side of us. We seemed to be getting closer to the crying, but something changed after we were 50 or so yards into the park. The wailing started sounding different. What originally sounded like a human child was now like an animal, almost like a dog or coyote crying. "Hey, Gav, what do you think it is?" I whispered. Before Gavin could respond, we heard the sound of someone or something running. The rapid footfalls crunched into the gravel somewhere on the path ahead of us. I quickly aimed my mag light at the path ahead, and at first I could only see a dark shape moving along the path. Gavin and I were frozen in place, trying to figure out what was coming towards us. After a second or two, we could both see what looked like a man running on all fours. He was completely naked, his wild hair flowing in the wind and his head cocked towards us. I could see the reflection of his eyes glimmering and flashing as he bobbed up and down. His mouth was wide open, impossibly wide, and a chilling screech escaped his throat. I didn't even realize I started running, but now I was sprinting in the opposite direction, heading out of the park as fast as I could. My lungs burned in the cold air, and my muscles were numb with adrenaline. I could hear my feet slamming into the gravel path with other heavy footfalls close behind. I hoped they were Gavin's, but I couldn't be sure. I called out to my friend, "Gavin, come on!" I didn't hear a response, but I didn't stop either. I ran a block and a half before my toe caught in an uneven section of pavement. My forward momentum was too much and I fell forward, hitting my chin and hands on the street. I quickly rolled onto my back and shined the light behind me, expecting to see that thing on my heels. But there was nothing. To my horror, I didn't see Gavin either. I just waited, out of breath, sitting in the street for a few moments. My muscles throbbed and my heart fluttered. I looked at my hands and saw the road rash. I touched my chin and my fingers came back covered in blood. I hoisted myself to my feet. The world was silent again. No footsteps, no man, no Gavin. For a while I debated what to do next, but in the end I started back towards the park. I looked around for something I could use as a weapon. If anything, the maglite could make for a sufficient bludgeoning tool. I stopped outside the park entrance and listened. After 30 seconds or so, footfalls approached rapidly. Finally, Gavin emerged from the mouth of the pathway. His jacket was stained with blood. He wasn't limping or showing any signs of injury. "Jesus, man! Run!" Gavin shouted at me when he saw me standing there. Together we ran all the way back to my house. Once in the safety of my home, I slid the deadbolt shut and dropped to the floor. My hands were bloody and my chin was throbbing. Gavin just slumped against the wall next to the kitchen. We were panting loudly. "What the hell happened back there?" I wheezed. Gavin didn't reply. He took off his bloody jacket and dropped it at his side, staring into space. Moments later, the power came back on in the neighborhood. My furnace clicked on. Not many words were exchanged through the night. Gavin crashed on the couch. I patched up my chin and then fell into my bed, sleeping almost immediately. When I woke up the next day, he had already left. To this day, Gavin and I will not talk about that night or what happened in the park. I may never know. If you made it this far, I hope you'll follow me on Twitter at KingSpookCreepy. Also, if you're feeling generous, I'd appreciate it if you donate even $1 to my Patreon over at patreon.com/kingspook. Every dollar helps. The hope is eventually I'll be able to get enough through Patreon that I can do this full time. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, sorry for the lack of videos so far this year. I've been pretty depressed and paranoid with health anxiety. You know, I made the videos about the petechia and all that and got some of them biopsied. Apparently there's nothing abnormal, but I don't understand why they're showing up. At any rate, I'd like to thank my patrons. Because without you guys, if YouTube were to say, for some reason, completely remove monetization or something like that, this would be the only way I'd be making anything off of it, and I'd have to upload even less than now, to be honest with you, because I'd have to find, I hate my quote-unquote day job, even though I consider this my real job. My day job at some, gas station. Anyways, I'll get to thanking the patrons. Thank you, Alexander Rodriguez, Amber K. Whitaker, April Rose, Bonzi Buddy, Caleb Doinkies, Celeste Schmidt, Sherry Fairstein, Christian Nolan, Christopher Burns Swanson, Christopher Garza, Corey Yoder, Cordo Rudent, Daniel Smacala, David Harner, Deborah Alexander, Dragonfly, Dustin Askew, Dustin May, Gage Garza, Gothic 1, Heather Snodgrass, James Jewell, Jennifer, Jules Latona, Kawaii Gamer Girl 117, Kaylee Blom, Kevin Fiddler, Christopher Nelson, Lee Lawrence, Ludatic, Logan Courtier, Matthew Autismo, Matthew Bergman, Matthew Jackson, Matthew Lowe, Minister Elena C. Henderson, Maud Farouz Ghazali, Mr. Black's Audio Animation. Well, actually, it says Mr. Black's AA, but it's Mr. Black Pasta. You can look him up on YouTube. He's good. Myelin, Nico E., Shanna Gilbert, Shion, The Fat Man, The Plague, The Albedo, The Beatus. That's not actually one of them, but yeah. Wicked Star, and, that's everybody. Well, at any rate, thank you guys very much, because that's basically the lifeline in terms of, if YouTube were to get rid of monetization and all that. So, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll have more videos coming soon, including Tales from Japan, Scary True Stories, which these are all brand new stories, so hopefully you guys will be excited for that. Thanks for watching.